Is he doing it live? Like in LA, are they able to go out and do events?
No,
Or
we just went on lockdown again.
No, really?
uh,
6
that's
to
what
10 p.m.
Oh man.
I
So
mean,
how do
it's
you,
for businesses, but majority of I mean, business. No one's gonna go out if none of the businesses are open.
man? Hey Jeff, I'm
But
gonna change your name to Jeff Lipton. How you doing, man?
Hi, how are you?
Hey Jeff, you got on
Hi,
okay?
good
I
morning
actually
to
love
you.
that is it the Golden Gate Bridge there behind you?
Yes, I flew over last night. There's a good place for coffee over there.
Yes. I love San Francisco.
Yes.
I just passed San Francisco on my way back from a trip to Northern Cal, and it's that bridge is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I love that place.
I
Excuse
managed.
excuse my voice. I've got a cold, so it's not COVID, just so you
Oh,
know.
we,
So,
jeez,
so
we
it's
got
a
to get
little
up.
bit sort of husky.
Makes you
Oh,
sound more sexy, Robin.
Oh, thank
oh,
you.
we have some. We got some flirting in the house. Whoop whoop whoop.
No, man, you guys aren't missing much in LA. To be honest, people are being stupid. Like I just talked to one of my social media friends, and they went and threw a party and went on tour and threw a party all around the United States, and they all had COVID.
Oh
No,
shit!
wow.
That's what's wrong with everything that's going on right now.
Shit.
Wow.
No
So
good.
when you say lockdown, what's exactly happening? Like you're
So like businesses are closing down again. Gyms are closed again. They just closed gyms. No indoor eating when they restarted indoor eating, so you could eat it indoor. Um, and then it's funny, people are they said you can eat outdoor, but people are putting tents outside that are enclosed.
oh gosh.
How does that make
Oh
sense?
no.
What?
So I'm like,
What was that? What was that? I missed that.
no, so, okay, so people, you're not allowed to eat inside anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, they said you can eat outside. So these businesses are making tents that are enclosed outside.
It's still indoor outdoor, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so it's like,
Doesn't
it's an
make sense.
outdoor indoor seating.
That's awesome. Humans find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
So
Right. Yeah. So,
how long is that for?
well, it just depends, because if Biden becomes president, he wants to do a full lockdown for 6 weeks in January.
Oh shit.
So me
And
coming
that's,
to LA should be on hold, do you think?
yeah, yeah. Save your money, because here you're just gonna waste it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
man.
ridiculous.
Yeah, and who knows when it's gonna sort of calm down, right?
Dude,
Like,
I don't know if it's going to. I think I really don't, because people aren't wearing masks. Like I passed 4 people yesterday while I was out, and none of them were wearing masks. And I'm just, I
man.
don't understand people's logic. They're like, oh, the government's trying to poison your minds, and it's like, dude, obviously, if you see it going on and everyone else is wearing masks, just wear a mask.
Yeah, look, that's right. You know, and if we all abide by the rules, I think
You
it
don't have
will
to wear
follow
masks.
better.
You don't have to wear masks in Sydney, do you?
Nah, only in
No.
medical.
Oh, that's right. I saw you. I was like, oh, you guys are so lucky, man.
And neither in Queensland. Melbourne, I think they're loosening that up this week. But
Well,
where
that's
I
why.
am in Queensland, it's
Yeah.
like
Is
it
a
doesn't exist.
Yeah, man.
is a mask anything to do with a mask? Are we
Yes.
talking about the same thing here, are we?
A masquerade. I think
Something
we're
like
talking about
that.
a masquerade.
Dude, I would love to
Robin,
go to a masquerade. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Robin,
Yes.
I said to you, you should keep the husky voice. It makes you sound more sexy. It reminds me of a joke, if I may tell you very quickly.
Please,
Yes.
please do.
I'll tell you a joke very quickly.
Jokes are always welcome.
A 90-year-old man gets stung by a bee right on his dick. He goes to the doctor and he says, Doc, can you get rid of the sting but keep the swelling?
Love it. Love
Thank
it.
you.
I love you early in the morning, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
Thank
my
you.
contribution for the morning.
I know. I always get paranoid when I'm sick.
I hope you get
or
some
have a
better
cold.
contributions.
I heard one recently. It was it's like there was these, so gaming's become a huge thing across the world, right?
Gaming,
Because
yeah.
of COVID. So there was these friends playing, and one of her friends is like, women can get breast enlargement. He goes, what about penis enlargement? And they were all like, what do you mean? Are you trying to tell us something? He goes, well, I'm not saying I'm not average, but like I'm small in that department. And he was like, well, he goes, you know, you can get extensions, right? And he's like, you know, you got about 3 inside of you, and they just pull it out surgically. He goes, you're telling me if I pull hard enough. And, and then he goes, man, my girlfriend's been asking me for a dick pic. I'm gonna have to send her an X-ray.
Love it. Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the visitor coming in the room. Hey, Jack Kelly.
And Jack, you came in on that joke.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Yeah.
On a pivotal time of discussion.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
we have the absolute privilege of Stephen being in the waiting room. Should I let him in or just leave him in there? What do you reckon? Of course I'm going to let him in.
I think because we announced that he's going to be late,
Let's go. Yeah, no, let's let him in, man. The more the merrier. The great, like I can't, grabbing this man's presence is like a dream. So let's go. Let's get him in. I am here. Are there people waiting? Confused. Here we go. Let him in. Done. The people that are late are going to miss out. That's their problem. We're recording this and we're going live on Facebook, just so you guys know.
Hey, we're on time, baby. We're on time.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Movember. Stephen Bernstein, welcome, brother. Wait till he connects to the audio.
How are you?
Good. How you going?
Hello.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm good. How are all of you?
Good. Just let you in.
Not too bad.
How was the press? How was the conference?
It's been a crazy 2 days. It's still going on.
I could imagine. Congratulations. It's amazing.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
We just celebrated one of our friends here in the room. He just landed a feature role in Los Angeles as well. So it's all happening now. It's back in action, isn't it?
Yeah. So am I early or I'm just utterly confused. I thought I was supposed to come on at 4, but then I suddenly saw the invitations at 3.
Yeah.
So I sort of dropped everything and rushed in. So am I early?
Yeah.
I think we advertised that you were going to be a little bit later, so people might, sort of come on board a bit later. Excuse my voice. I've got a cold and it's not COVID.
I love the voice. I think it's a good time for audition with that voice.
There you go. Promise, it's time now, girl.
Yeah.
Joan Greenwood. All my favorite actresses have that sort of thing going on. So Joan Greenwood is my very favorite of all. So if you haven't seen Kind Hearts and Coronets, it's one of the seminal female performances on film, and Joan Greenwood with that kind of raspy glottal fry, kind of magical.
Yeah, I don't like it when I sound like this, but everyone else does. So.
So, Stephen, tell us what sort of feedback have you gotten from the last call just recently?
Well, yesterday we had the way the Hollywood Foreign Press works is that they, at least in these pandemic days, is they show the film to the members, and then afterwards they have something called a press junket. I don't know if they use that term in Australia or not, but we had a press junket. So. And there's 85 voting members of the Hollywood Foreign Press, of which you typically expect at a press junket to get 5 or 6 probably, and most not showing up, no matter what stars you have, unless maybe it's Brad Pitt and Amy Adams and so on.
Yeah.
Incredibly, we had a huge turnout, 55 or something like that. So almost all the members. And John Malkovich was there with me and Rodrigo and Reese, and they introduced the film. The first thing they said was Steve Bernstein's brilliant film, and that was kind of exciting. And then everyone in the Hollywood Foreign Press is a journalist, so they're all going to write reviews. And everybody who asked a question said they loved the film first of all. John was fantastic, was full of praise and good, and he's a compelling guy to interview. Was very flattering about me and about the film, which I enjoyed. So I'm hoping to get a recording of it, because if nothing else, what I'll do is when I die, I'll get a little video camera on my tomb and a little loop of John Malkovich saying, not only is he a great shooter, but he's a great writer. He's fantastic with actors.
That's
Not only is he a great shooter, but he's a great writer, but he's fantastic with actors over and over again. And we'll have
Sounds like-
Robin introduce you saying, "This is the last thing that was said about Steve." And think of the residuals you get, Robin, because it'll play for eternity. So you
Right.
get a check from the cemetery guild every 6 months.
You
for
need a
85.
partner.
Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
that was very good. It was stressful because they're having trouble connecting with Reese, who's on set of the fabulous Flinthawks someplace in Europe, but they got him, and it was good. And then Rodrigo spoke as well, and everybody else, and it was full of praise. I mean, some odd questions. Somebody asked John whether he ever heard secret voices speaking to him, which was peculiar. Somebody asked him about wine. They go off on these strange tangents. And then today, the reason I look even older than, well, first I had my birthday today, so I am in fact older.
Oh,
Happy
birthday.
Happy
Than puffy gray
birthday!
beard.
Oh my
Maybe it's
goodness.
purchasing
We
something.
feel
wow.
privileged to have you on your birthday.
No,
What the hell,
I'm-
man?
Yeah, and then it was just been interview after interview after interview, and as you know, you lose track of, did I just say this in the last interview? Am I repeating myself? So I didn't do too much of that, and again, a lot of praise. This last one we just did, the woman was just going on and on about how great she thought the film was, so that's great. And then the usual mishaps. We had a bunch of theaters booked for next week in America, and I don't believe in any negative energy at all, but we just had another lockdown, so we
Yeah.
lost about 26 screens in like 2 hours. So
No.
whether they're still going to go ahead with the release, I think we have to now, because the Hollywood Foreign Press has got us marked for that, and we won't be eligible for the Golden Globes or the Oscars or the Screenwriters Guild Awards or the DGA Awards or the WGA Awards or the ASC Awards or all the rest of them. So
is
we
it
got to
going
stick to
to
that
be-
date, and then we can't show it in half the theaters was showed in. Sorry.
Yeah, is it a theatrical release around the world or just for the United States at the moment?
No, we
Or-
open, well, the model is you open in the US, you get a bunch of positive reviews. Next would be the UK, because so much of the film is about the UK. Then Poland, Spain, France, Greece, Italy, Germany. Then I think it's South America. Then I think it's Australia and New Zealand
I laugh.
and China and all the rest of it. So
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
all the usual stuff. So Carol and I are kind of exhausted, and because you feel that you've got a very limited window. I guess we all have limited windows, usually about 75 or 80 years, and then no press agent can save you. But we have a particularly limited window because you got a few weeks until the film comes out. So you suddenly feel that you want to do all the things you probably should have been doing before. You want to speak to everybody. You're trying to ascertain who's valuable and who isn't, which isn't the way you should assess a person, but that's what you have to do. You do the best you can to encourage people in an honest way to see your film. The film itself, as you haven't seen yet, is about the nature of human communication and seduction as opposed to intimacy. I mean, we're all always dishonestly interacting with each other in some form of seduction. Go for a job interview, we're trying to impress somebody. We meet someone who might be our lover, we try to show our best parts that we can. It's a strange way to start a relationship because, of course, none of us are as perfect as we portray ourselves. And when you're a performer, as Dylan Thomas was essentially, he was a poet and a personality and an obsessive following. Ultimately, his problem was his interaction with the world was based on a dishonesty, that he seemed charming and full of love and human kindness and so on. And he was more complex than that. So what he did was not individual seduction, but group seductions of huge audiences, as every performer does, as every film does. A film is nothing but a seduction. We as filmmakers want the people going to see our films to like our films. But that doesn't mean we're honestly interacting with them. Otherwise, we would open with a shot of the director saying, just so all of you know, this is a movie that came from my ideas, and I want to use a big close-up so you feel sorry for the character just before they get hit by the train. That would be honest. But we don't do those things. We emotionally manipulate an audience, as we all emotionally manipulate each other. And I don't necessarily mean that in a pejorative sense. So But for Dylan Thomas, it meant that ultimately there was no real intimacy in his life. No one knew him for what he was. They just knew him for what he was projected as. It was really the beginning of the collective cultural obsession with fame, and it drove him half mad, and that's what the film's about. So it's kind of postmodernist because it's kind of replicating in our own lives now. So now we're trying to say, well, who do we want to see the film? Who do we want to speak to? And it is this collective seduction. We want people to go see the movie. The movie is, I mean, as last person said, whatever they said, I think the term a work of genius sprung from her lips, which it may or may not be. But I want people to hear that and believe it, because it means more people go see the film. It'll win more awards. It'll get more box office. That's what this is all about. But it's I feel uncomfortable because it's a dishonest interaction, because the process of selling is by its nature, as good as the film is dishonest. So it's a very complex undertaking, but we're delighted the film is being well received. We're delighted the Golden Globes looked at it and considering it possibly early next year for awards. Lots of other ones it's up for as well. And, so far so good, but, some people love this stuff. I love the writing. I feel most alive on a film set. That's the thing I delight in the most. I love the interaction with actors and arriving and understanding of character. That's delightful. Writing's a lonely occupation, but still satisfying because you learn so much about yourself. And I only discover ideas through writing. I can never outline a film before I write it. I have to write to understand what the characters are. But marketing and sales, not my favorite.
I mean, it's important. It's important to acknowledge, someone of experience, Stephen, and you are a man of experience. You've been in the game for how long now?
The game? Which game do you mean? The film
so the
game?
Matrix. No, the Matrix game. You've taken the green pill.
Well,
obviously.
This goes to our marketing. So what my beloved partner, Carolyn Rodney, who's in the next room, would want me to say is that I've been doing it for around 30 years. So all of you think that I'm younger than I am, despite the beard. The beard is just long enough to say dangerous, but the face looks tired enough to say vulnerable, dangerous and vulnerable, but also youthful enough to suggest also relevant. So relevant, dangerous, and vulnerable is what I'm trying to project. But if I actually said that I've been doing this for 44 years, then I would just seem pathetic. But
30's the triage, isn't it? 3's the magic.
I was on my first set, let's see, 45 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And 100 feature films and television shows since, a few books, a lot of plays, 26 screenplays, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, and
I started when I was 6. I started when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
6 years old.
I started when I was 21.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So for those of you who just joined us, this is big today. This is a big birthday day that Stephen Bernstein has rocked up on his birthday. So
Joey, I got to interrupt because I'm hearing you twice.
Oh, you're hearing me twice. Okay, hang on a second. How about now? What about now?
Still a little bit 1980s reverb, I'm afraid. You sound like Duran Duran.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to have to try and fix that. But in a minute, I will fix that. But if you can make out what I'm saying, which is the main thing, I just wanted to shout out a big happy birthday for everyone that's just joined. This is Stephen Bernstein's birthday today. Happy birthday to Stephen.
Happy birthday.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Massive happy birthday. Big love in the chat box to him. Massive love. We'll do that again. And shout out some questions. Shout out some questions on the chat box, and we'll look over there and we'll bring them into Stephen's peripheral.
Actually, I'll have a quick.
I've got to say that I see Jeff Lipton is he looks like he's in San Francisco, right by the. So that's incredible. So many people I've spoken to today are in your apartment, Jeff. So it's fantastic.
I love that bridge, right? Stephen, with you were mentioning that there was like the Golden Globes and the Oscars. Do you know, with the whole COVID thing, whether they're still going ahead next year? Is that the sort of plan?
I think what you said is the red carpet and everything else going to be happening next year, I think. Is that what you kind of said? Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, is my voice echoey as well, or can you hear me clearly?
No, your
No, I
voice is
can
good.
hear.
Your voice is
Okay,
good.
great. Well, I don't think anything like that's going to happen. I think that it's going to be one of those asterisks experiences, whatever the plural of asterisks is. There will be the Golden Globes, there will be the Oscars. Certainly, Oscars have been pushed back till April.
April, yeah.
But I'll know when Carolyn is dress shopping whether there's going to be a red carpet or not. But I don't think there's going to be this year. I think it's going to be virtual. I mean, we're hoping it'll be real, and we're hoping we're obliged rather than just delighted to attend. But we can't say for certain. Yesterday in America was the worst day in terms of new infections and viruses. So, it would be delighted if we could vote out an infection, but we've not been able to vote out that particular infection. So it's, we'll see what happens, but all the awards will happen. I know the Directors Guilds will have their awards, the Screen Actors Guild will have their awards and things. So, in one sense, it'll be great. We'll still be up for those things, I hope, and hopefully win a few of them. But I think the kind of fun and delight of going to the Oscars and, going up that red carpet and then sitting in a chair, and particularly with Monster, I remember very clearly seeing our film win was kind of an
That's
experience.
the excitement. That's the experience.
You don't soon forget. I mean,
absolutely.
It's a trip.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're all so disassociative now that what's interesting is that we live more in the fictive world than we live in the physical world. So for me, at least, and I'm sure all of you are more emotionally balanced than I am, nothing seems real until it resembles fiction. So the great thing about when you got a hot film, I remember going to Berlin with Monster, and they had planned a press conference for 75 or 80 people, and there were 1,800 people in the room, and with the flashes as well. So you're in this room packed with people to the rafters. I mean, just packed, shoulder to shoulder, thousands of people yelling questions at you, and the flash is going off, and you think, oh, this is just like a movie, so this must be real. So for me, it's essential that the fictive reemerges and I get an opportunity to live in my fictional world so it all seems real.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. So Robbie Merritt's just asked a wonderful question. Can you hear me, Stephen?
It's you're echoey, but I'm going to open a little chat section. There we go.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, mate. Happy birthday, Stephen. You share the same birthday as my mother, who's 90 today. Fantastic.
Oh.
Why would you change in any movie you have produced if you could? We'll come back to that. So what were we going to say, Joe?
Oh, that was the question I was going to ask. In fact, what would you change in any movie you have produced? Yeah.
I don't know if I would. That's a great question. I think it would be wrong to change anything. Certainly, you are aware of how audiences react to things. Carol and I were just talking about the new film, Last Call, and I shot an awful lot, and I cut out about an hour and a half of actual material that would be perfectly good on screen. So the film would have been over 3 hours long had we released it with all the scenes that were in the script. So we were ruthless. I got Chris Gill, who's incredibly worked with Danny Boyle, who you'll know from Slumdog Millionaire and other films, and he did 28 Weeks Later with Danny. And I hired him to be the editor, and I gave him pages of notes, as I do. Leadership is a strange thing. It's always a balance between facilitation and direction. So sometimes you want to give people very specific directions, and sometimes you want to step back and validate them and encourage them, but let them run without your interference. So the difference between micromanagement and inspiration. So I gave him 100 pages of notes, so I was micromanaging. I knew exactly what I wanted. And Chris, who's a world-class editor, said, well, Steve, I'm going to do a cut. I'm not going to look at any of your notes. And I was horrified and flew over to London to look at the film. And the bugger, he had made it infinitely better because all those things that I was emotionally attached to, because they were hard to shoot, because they showed off my writing, all those things weren't to do with the audience's relationship to the film. He had left out, cut out, and left only those things that had an emotive impact narratively and specifically to the character. So that was hard. But some of the scenes that got cut out, particularly with John Malkovich, were brilliant individual scenes. So I think someday, particularly if this film is as successful as we hope it might be, I will do a very indulgent 3.5 hour long director's cut with all John Malkovich's scenes where he's really cutting loose. I'll tell you, John does not speak fast. He's got a very slow, laconic delivery, but he's brilliant. So I gave him some dialogue or monologues that would last like 2 pages, said slowly, brilliantly funny, fantastic scenes, but they would have stopped the movie. So, but they're great scenes. And John is an actor and a man of breathtaking ability and great individual kindness. So it hurt me not to see them in the movie. So that's what I would cut back in. Every other, just like every life experience I've had, people often say, well, God, Stephen, you've had so many ups and downs, so many near catastrophes, so many tragedies. What would you eliminate from your life? And I wouldn't eliminate anything because I wouldn't have evolved into the person I am now for all my faults, but also my strengths, if I hadn't had the failures as well as the successes I've had along the way. So, and same thing with my films. When I now realize that I see people reacting to my film and liking something or not liking something, it still gave me great individual benefit to better understand audiences, better understand my own predilections and predispositions. And if I had changed anything, I wouldn't have evolved in the direction that ultimately I've evolved, which is what I'm happy with.
Yeah.
So essentially, do you believe that everything happens for a reason and it's out of your control?
Nah, I'm not. I don't. You know, I think everything happens for the reason that the world is completely chaotic. I don't think there's a grand design specifically, but I do believe, in a Buddhist sense, that it's up to us to extract from that chaos something that's ordered and of value. So I don't think there is a benign innovator or someone who is intervening in our individual lives. I don't think there's angels watching over us. If they are, that's with a few billion people, that's a lot of angels hard at work. And what happens when the angels disagree with each other? No, I want this person to be happy. Well, I want this person to be happy. They hate each other. So is there an angel arbitration center where the angels go and then present our individual cases? If it's God who's looking after all of us, my God, must he be busy? And again, what happens when 2 people have, they're breaking up and one's hurting the other? Which side does God go with and things? So I don't think that's the purpose anyway. I think the purpose is the acquisition of wisdom and then some peace and some understanding. I think what the Buddhist would say is that you can't control experiences, but you can control your reaction to it. And, life is suffering. And then the reason you suffer is because of your afflictions, and your afflictions are greed and avarice and anger and jealousy and all those other things, attachment to material things. When you free yourself of your afflictions, you free yourself of a lot of suffering. You can't stop the suffering. The idea that somehow if you're a good enough person or a wise enough person, the suffering goes away. No, you're going to suffer your whole life. But how much you suffer and what you extract from value, that is something that's entirely up to yourself. So does everything happen for a reason? Well, if the reason is that it gives you the opportunity to acquire wisdom, well, then sure. But is there a grand design guiding you towards a greater purpose and absolute happiness? I've been with a lot of people on their deathbed and looked into their faces, and what I've seen is not grace, but terror. So I think before I get to that moment of terror, I want to have some modicum of understanding, but I don't think it's all for a particular purpose. I have to create the purpose of my own life, which is understanding rather than just the accumulation of material things.
Wonderful
Sorry to
expression.
disappoint. I know
No.
you feel
No,
different.
not at all.
No, it's beautiful. It's amazing articulation of your collective experience in life. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I got a question here from, I'm in the process of redrafting a FF screenplay because the original would have needed a Hollywood blockbuster budget, which realistically can't happen. So reworking something like a storyline now, which is hard. Is this something you ever done, and how did it go? Well, I'll tell you, in writing all the time, you're thinking about audience and budgets and that sort of thing. But I would suggest that's a bad place to start. I go someplace entirely different. I think we talked about this last time. I start unfettered, without any belief in anything being significant or important. I don't think about budget. I certainly never outline a script, and I certainly never buy into any of those screenwriting books with the 3-act plays and any of that other, what I think is nonsense. I think ultimately what you have to do is you have to create character. And you create character by writing character. You can't design a character until you know who they are, and you don't know who they are until you write them. I think I said last time with my screenwriting students, when I ask them to describe their plots, they will do this long thing where they show me their plots, which follows McKee or one of the other writers about it, and say, look how well ordered and structured it is. I said, great, now write me, say, 50 pages about your character. And they usually get about 2 paragraphs in and then stop, and they know nothing about their character. Ultimately, there's no such thing as a high concept. There's no such thing as a good concept. And there's no such thing as a good story. The number of times on the internet that, and it is in the thousands each month, that people write to me or one of my assistants who intervenes on my behalf and says, I've got a great story, Stephen, that's going to win you an Oscar. No great story wins anyone an Oscar. What wins someone an Oscar is great writing and complex characterization and a unique view of the world. It's not a high concept. So that's why to write, you have to write, and you have to write unfettered. I like to dictate. You write dialogue, and then you discover your character, and then you go back and you can impose some sort of order. So if in your writing you're thinking about budget, right away, as you're writing a scene, you think, no, I don't want to do this because it's going to cost too much. Don't write that way. Write whatever you want, whatever comes to you, without any limitations, without any fettering, without structure, without order, without any limitation, and see what you discover. Then go back, read what you've written, discover your characters, then write a backstory about each character, start at the end of your script, work backwards to the front, as a whole new way, I hope, of approaching your material. But fundamental to that is don't worry about audience, about money, about actors at that point. Now, subsequently, when the film's ready to go and you realize the film's going to cost billions, then you might look at trimming or adjusting a few things. Believe me, the technology is so far evolved now that as I look at TV shows like The Crown, if you guys haven't seen season 4 of The Crown, you must. That's some great writing and hugely valuable. Queen's Gambit, if you haven't seen that, you should. Again, great writing. Queen's Gambit, it looks like they were in Russia, in Paris, and all these other places. They never left the United States.
Oh.
Everything is done with a green screen.
Wow.
And it is completely believable. Now, when you start doing green screen plates and the plates you shoot in these different countries and you don't take your whole crew there, suddenly your budget reduces dramatically. So, whenever I go on a film, particularly when I was a cinematographer, the production manager used to say, go to a big location, well, you can't shoot here, it's too expensive. And then we're going to do another location, you can't shoot here, it's too expensive. And I would finally say in my kind way, please don't tell me what we can't do yet.
Mm.
I'll tell you everything that we want. And then I'm going to leave it to you to find a way to make this work with our budget. Maybe it'll be green screen. Maybe we'll cheat the extras. Maybe we'll do some deal with the person who's got the location, who wants a film shot there. For all these different reasons, maybe you'll find a way to make it work within a budget. But don't eliminate a creative concept based on fear in the beginning of that creative process. Go to it later. Anyway.
Yeah, great one. No, great one. Good, good, good. Very good experience. Thank you. Thank you.
And then I got Peter here. A couple of other ones here. Should I be reading these, Joey, or should I? Do you want to select them out?
You know what? I want to do something different. Maybe select someone to come off the mute button and put their hand up if they want to ask you a question. Is that all right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. So someone put your hand up. I don't know why I made that sound. My apologies. All right. Who's going to aim up? Here we go. Got Robbie Merritt. We'll unmute. Go for it, Robbie.
Unmuting. Stephen, you're an amazing man. We all follow your career, which is just starting. I did have a bit of a question regarding the recent election and the way that the movie industry seems to sort of push towards one and not the other. How is that affecting Hollywood at the moment?
The election?
Yeah. Has it slowed it down for you?
Wow. So I just, I've got two publicists who just left who control, basically I've got a little opening behind my neck and my publicists put their hands up there and they control what I say. So, and they very clearly instructed me never to talk about politics or the election. But because you're in Australia, because you're not part of the American press, I can offend all of you and tell you what I really think. Now, whatever your politics, please, I'm a sentient, sensitive, I hope somewhat evolved individual. And for my British friends who try to understand American politics as if between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, that is not what American politics are about. We don't have that kind of range of politics. Our politics are entirely different. So Donald Trump was an anathema and atypical of what we typically have in America. And he had some fundamental issues. Even if you agree with his kind of laissez-faire economic view of the world, again, I know I'm going to offend a lot of people, but he was morally bankrupt. Please take my word for this. He was completely morally bankrupt. So whatever your politics are, you can't be led, and that includes film shoots, by people who are morally bankrupt. When I speak to actors, I will sometimes say, I was directing Robin, for example, and Robin came on, her voice was raspy, and she goes, how's my voice? I go, Robin, for this, it's working. Or if it wasn't, I would say, I think we better take a day off because it's not working. She may not want to hear either one of those things, but the important thing is I told her the truth. Flash forward 2 weeks later, and Robin does the big dramatic scene. It's the denouement of the film, and she's, giving it her all, and she's worried that it doesn't work. And the director, who should always be just a few inches away, steps up, and Robin says, how was I? I said, Robin, it works. Now, if 2 weeks before that, I'd come onto set and said, as some directors do, wow, you're all fantastic. Love every one of you. God, you're my angels. You're fantastic. Love the scene. Let's do another take. Number one, why are we doing another take if we were so fantastic? And number two, when you float that sort of nonsense, people no longer believe you. So then when you tell them the truth, they don't believe you, and they become impossible to lead. So for someone to lead, they have to be absolutely wedded to the difficult truth. That's true of every film director I know. When the minute I get on the set, throughout my life, particularly when I'm on a film set, I refuse to lie to anyone. So my actors, my cinematographers, my producers all know that I'm going to be telling them the truth. Sometimes they don't want to hear it. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but ultimately they know that when I tell them something they do want to hear, they can rely upon it. So the problem for Donald Trump is none of us could rely on anything that he would say. His lies were so huge and so egregious that no matter what your politics are, it became impossible for him to lead the country. Denying that the COVID existed. Now he's saying that the election he lost by 7 million votes, that all of that was a fraud. I mean, even if we reelected him, no one, left or right, even now half of Republicans don't believe what he's saying. So that was the dilemma. Now, the film industry, going to your question, Robbie, is a delicate beast because we're artists, but artists who are taking a great deal of other people's money, sending it out into the ether of the zeitgeist, the collective zeitgeist, and then hoping that enough people will see it, that our investors get their money back after the agents take their cut, after the actors get the first out money, after the distributors get some money, after the exhibitors get some money, and after the marketing people take their money, still having money left for an investor. It's a very risky thing. Now, if you're in an environment that is politically volatile, we have these people called the Proud Boys, which are crypto fascists walking on the street, who are hateful of virtually every group. Obviously, then the separate problem with COVID, but the financial insecurity is very dangerous to the film industry because people are generally more likely to sacrifice the thing that is least important to them, which is their entertainment. So they'd be less inclined to go to the movie theater. So it was a stultifying influence. And then the uncertainty about whether he was going to win or not, a lot of people would have left the country had he been reelected, because a lot of us felt that it was virtually the end of democracy because he's not wedded to democratic principles. So it was a very difficult time period. He still isn't gone. And I've lived in some dangerous places. When I was a BBC journalist, I was in South Africa, I was in Nicaragua during the war. I've been in war zones, and they're scary places. I don't like to see dead bodies anymore, and I don't like to see people shooting each other. And I've lived half my life in Europe. I've never seen America more dangerous than it is right now.
Wow.
And we have more guns in America than we have people. There are about 400 million guns, I believe. I'd have to check that in America. That's a lot of guns. And there are people going to state houses. We have federal government and state government with guns during deliberations and in quasi-paramilitary outfits. Now, again, whatever your politics are, you can't support the idea of people showing up in guns to elected bodies. And that's been happening as well, and they're Trump supporters. So, what we need is stability and certainty. And even if it's a leader we disagree with, we need to know that they have a ritualized behavior, that they'll do the same things all the time, and they'll do it within certain quantifiable parameters. That's just a limit of power and an essential morality. And again, that goes back to how to lead a crew. I do the same thing every morning when I arrive. I call the crew together. I tell them what we're shooting that day. I tell them why we're shooting those things. I praise people who did good work previously. I talk about any difficulties or insecurities I have so they know that I'm human, and then we move on. Every morning on every film I've been on, even when I was a cinematographer, I would call the crew together. People love and rely on ritual. They depend on honesty. Honesty and ritual, two conservative foundations, but necessary for leadership of a country or of a film crew.
Fantastic.
So to recap, thank you so much, Stephen. So to recap, really looking for people, like when you're producing a film, your philosophy with your team is to have a great team of people that are brutally honest. Doesn't matter what happens, they're brutally honest with yourself as well as your team. They have a ritual that they follow, and definitely not morally bankrupt. So those three things is what you aim for. I guess it's something that we in Australia don't even think of. So thank you very much for putting that into position for us. Thank you.
That's
No,
great.
and by the way,
That's
in
great.
England as well, I would have to say, most people don't have to think of. It's of course I'm getting older now. It's my birthday, so maybe I'm getting more conservative. But I think moral foundation is a necessary pillar in the construction of ourselves. It doesn't mean that you can have radical views about different things. That's the sort of morality I'm talking about. My morality is very specific. It's to do with honesty, kindness, and integrity. These are the things necessary for leadership, and I think any interaction. And they're rare because I began this conversation by saying all human interaction is dishonest because we're always seducing each other. We always want to influence each other. But at the same time, when push comes to shove, we have to make a choice. I think it's better to choose the act of integrity over the act of expedience.
Nice one. Very nice, Stephen. And I
And
think
when do you think is a good time, and when do you feel that Hollywood would be opening up again?
The cinemas and things, and
Just I think for auditions and Hollywood.
Robin B10, she's asking this question for all of you. But we all know secretly Robin wants to come to California and wants to.
We
No,
know.
it
We
is
all
for
know.
myself, and it is for many other actors that I've got out that want to do that transition that they keep
Well,
up.
look, my friend Jeffrey D. Morgan and I were just chatting the other day. Jeffrey is the star of The Walking Dead, and I've got a film for him and so on, and we're doing something together in the future, I think. And Walking Dead's gone back to work. Now, of course, it is The Walking Dead, so I guess people
Well, with my raspy voice, I might just be
they can get sick and they can keep working. You know, you don't know whether they're in care. I shouldn't make COVID jokes. I'm sorry, but the fact is that people are gradually going back to it. But we've had in the last 2 weeks a terrible wave now sweeping across the country again. So it's very, very hard. You've read as we have about the vaccines. There's now 3. 2 seem very close. The 3rd is not far behind. But then as the distribution of those vaccines, which will be difficult, I can't predict the future. But I'm doing a huge TV series in Europe, and we got to start shooting in May. So I would think that late spring, we should start getting control on it. You know, it's winter in America now, although California it's pretty nice, but still the nights are getting cold. And now the regular seasonal flu is coming and pneumonia. So now is not the time to be in America with flu, pneumonia, and COVID, and Donald Trump still in power. So if you want to get a good life experience and look at the dark side, by all means come over. Maybe go to a demonstration in Washington, hang out with those people who refuse to wear a mask. You know, maybe spend a little time in hospital, and something for your character to draw in the future. But I personally would wait till about March.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I hope that answers that, Robin. Peter, you had a question. Did you want to yeah.
Yeah, look, just a couple of things, Stephen. I don't know if you saw, I actually have shot a whole feature on green screen, and I'm fascinated to hear what you said about is it Queen's Gambit? Pretty sure, yeah. Though, you know, how they've managed to make that work because of how difficult that can be. But now I'm going to be watching it with a whole new perspective.
Yeah.
But one of the questions you were talking about, the pain, what I don't know if it's an Australian thing, but I've found it a little frustrating with scripts in particular, that people seem to feel that you must have a connection to it. It's not possible to make something up. Just the example being one particular script I wrote, it was submitted for several awards, didn't get anything. I thought, okay, that's fine. I then changed my name and resubmitted it under a female name, and it won all kinds of awards and everything. And it was a little embarrassing because they then said, well, they wanted to meet Svetlana, and they wanted to, wow, this must have been horrible what she went through. That was amazing. She was such an incredibly strong woman, and how she wrote made everyone feel great about her. And of course, that completely dumped on me in the end because it was me.
Wow.
But what I'm getting at is that it's
Great story, by the way.
Is
Great
that the
story.
kind of thing? Yeah, is that the kind of thing that is acceptable, or is that something that is just our cringe that we have here in Australia, that you can't possibly have an imagination? You must have gone through that yourself personally.
Well, look, I completely go on the side of imagination. And I had one bad review of my new film, 85 good ones, one bad, and the bad one said, these things didn't really happen in Dylan Thomas' life. This is what happened in Dylan Thomas' life. And I don't give a damn what happened in Dylan Thomas' life. My film is inspired by Dylan Thomas, but I am a creative intelligence writing about the ideas around this subject. If they want a documentary, then they should go see documentary films, but feature films are not documentaries. It is the summation of our collective imaginations of all the people who worked on the film, and we have to have the freedom to seek the bigger truth. I mean, I think it was Goddard that said that fiction is far more truthful than truth. And it is because it gets the essence of what we're about. Just showing events as they occurred when you're doing some bio pictures is of no particular interest to me, or I think anyone. The artist's vision of what that world is, like Queen's Gambit, is a great example where, if there was a famous woman chess player, there have been a few, these events may or may not happen in real life. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the character on screen. If someone had told me at the end of that series, oh, she really existed, I'd be moderately interested in looking at Wikipedia and see what her life was like. But I want to be comparing it to the TV series. When I watch The Crown, I don't give a damn what the royal family thinks, whether it's accurate or not. Even if it's not, the characters they've created are really compelling ones, maybe even more interesting than the real royal family. That's what art does. It hunts for bigger game and bigger ideas, and it's not just object reality. I remember people about Apocalypse Now, one of the great masterpieces of cinema history, saying it wasn't an accurate portrayal of Vietnam. Do you really think that Francis Coppola's main object was to do a documentary about what life was like in Vietnam? No, it was a creation of Heart of Darkness, about the duality of the spirit. But sadly, journalists, of which I was once one, are more interested in the smaller story, particularly if it's something that seems scandalous, than they are about the bigger examination of complex ideas, which is what artists do, which is what writers do. So I'm completely with you. I'll tell you this now that I'm older and no one can catch me. When I was in university in England, we were having a party one weekend. And someone's mother had left a copy, I think, of Women's Own, or one of those like very cheap paper 1980s women's 70s women's magazine, sorry. And there was a contest in it. It's write the first chapter of a romantic novel, and we will then commission you to write the whole book and give you an award. But it was obviously women, so they wouldn't accept a man author, we thought. So we made up a woman's name. And that night, with a lot of scotch and other things that we were doing, I wrote a romantic novel. She looked deeply into his swimming eyes and was transported, not to this world, but another, as if in Cythera, where all things were perfect. She felt her breathing stop and didn't care if it would ever begin again, if only he was there, I think is the way I began it. And on I went, and tragically, I won.
Interesting.
So they invited us to Birmingham, where their publishing company was, where Sally Davis Jones, the author of this story, a 45-year-old homemaker from Surbiton, was going to be given this prize and commissioned to write this romantic novel. And I was in a panic. So we got a friend of ours, a woman friend of ours. I hope this never catches up with me, to go and accept the award and pretend that she was 15 years old. She had 3 children, who couldn't attend. Her husband was a steam fitter at a shipyard. It was fantastic. And then we went on to write the book, which was published. And to this day is still in publication and still making money. Wow. So not for me, it goes to a charity. I should never tell that story because as my lawyers, they can sue me, but we'll just keep it. There's only 18 of you and you're in Australia. I should be okay. But don't ask me if you can buy it because I'm not going to tell you. You'll be able to track it down. Just look for that opening paragraph, which I just read you. So.
That's fantastic, Stephen. I think we got another question from Paul Talbot. Paul, shoot away.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Wanted to thank you for the last time we met because I asked you regards to the casting process. And it was basically having a beginning story and an ending story in your self-tape. And I was struggling because I was with independent people. And it's only just after I had your kind words that I actually started breaking in with Maeve, Maura Fay, and regular casting and all that sort of stuff for bigger and nice roles to develop characters and stuff. So what sort of advice would you give now having that? Because you've sort of already inspired me to just come up with these really nice scenarios so it leads straight into the script. And then at the end, he just smooths it off. But what sort of momentum would you give to someone to take it to that next step to possibly get spotted by you?
We had really bad connection, so can someone try to repeat that question for me, because I couldn't quite hear a lot of it. I was getting that echo
Yeah.
again.
Do you want to try it
Okay.
again, Paul?
Yep.
Just quickly.
Is it good now?
Still, I get with all of you, I think we just got to unstable. I'm way up in the mountains, so I'm just getting an echo. I hope you're hearing me okay, but I get an echo. But maybe someone could type the question, and then I could, I think you were talking about your writing process, yes?
Oh, no,
And
the casting.
No,
I
casting
completely missed
process,
it then. So could someone just
maybe
Yeah.
write
Oh,
it.
right, yeah.
Yeah, maybe write it
Yeah.
in the
I
chat
believe
box.
it's the
Yeah.
acting process and casting, and what does he have to do to get seen by you, like, at your caliber. I think.
Oh, okay, got it. So writing fantastic, thank you. Yeah, look, I'm always on the lookout for actors. A dangerous thing for me to say because then I get millions of headshots, which is not something I do.
Yeah.
But I look at films all the time. When theaters were open, I go to theaters all the time. I speak to other filmmakers in London and here and in Greece about cool actors they found. I watch television programs. I take note of great actors. Again, like that actress in Taylor-Joy, who's in Queen's Gambit, is incredible. Claire Foy, of course, from The Crown. You see fantastic actors appearing. There's a great American film called Palm Springs, which is, again, got a revelation of an actress in it. So I find people everywhere. Actors are discovered by directors by being in material. And obscure places. I am a judge in a lot of film festivals, sometimes short films, sometimes independent film festivals, films made with no money. And I'll look at them and suddenly see an actor and I go, wow, she can act. That's fantastic. I must find out who that person is. I check the credits. I note it. I give it to one of my casting directors. And next time I'm making a film, we bring that person in for a talk. I don't do readings. I do talk. So the first thing I say to any actor is just get in everything that you possibly can. Network. It's hugely important because casting directors, more than anything, are the things that bring people to people like me's attention. So, it's when I was working with Mary Vernew, who's one of the biggest casting directors on the planet, it'd be the end of the day and Mary would go, there's just one more person I want you to meet. And I always knew that that was one person that wasn't on our list, whose video I hadn't seen, I hadn't proved, but it was someone Mary had seen at some other reading. And she brings them in, they did a reading for us in that particular instance, and I thought they were fantastic, and I cast them. That's one of the best roles in, not this film, the one previous to that called Decoding Annie Parker. There's, of course, another film I worked on called, oh my goodness, my mind's going blank, it'll come to, called Curdled, where the way that film happened was the Florida-based filmmaker cast a film student, I think she was, in his short film. And the short film was submitted to a festival, and the judge there was Quentin Tarantino. And Quentin saw this and loved the character so much that he said to the filmmakers, look, I want to cast the girl who's the lead of your film. I'm going to put her in Pulp Fiction as the cab driver, which he did, from a short film. And he said, and I'll go one better. I'll give you the money to make your short into a feature film.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And that was Curdled. And we did it and we shot it, and Quentin produced, and he was a great producer. We had a great time with him, and he's a good guy. And that's the way it sometimes happens. So it's kind of like press. Right now I did God knows how many interviews today and yesterday, 30 interviews. They blend together. But of all those interviews, the last one in particular, suddenly someone just doesn't just like the film, but they love it. And she's got 1 million followers or whatever, or people of followers. So suddenly that might be the thing that makes the film catch fire. Same thing with actors. The difficulty of being an actor, Paul, as you know, is you never know when success is coming. But that's like life. And that the weird thing is the negatives are always there announcing themselves proudly. They stand on our chest when we're asleep. So when we wake up, the first thing we see is our difficulties, the bills that we have, our dysfunctional relationships, our advancing age, our receding hair. For me, I've noticed that I started with a very large nose, and even though everything else has stopped growing, my nose is still growing. So I'm suddenly look like one of those old guys you sit hanging around. These are things you can't control. Your difficulties are always there announcing yourself. Meanwhile, your success is in hiding, and it's not giving you any indication that it's coming. And you have to feed it and care for it, even though it is completely invisible. So for me, I'm doing press everywhere. For me, I am spending good energy to people, extending love to people who deserve my love and things, talking about the movie, showing it to people. I don't know which of those people are going to respond or be responsible for my future success. And no one's going to whisper to me before I go to bed tonight, Stephen, the third interview you did, that's the one that's going to make the big difference. So you just cast your seeds out and then you wait. Meanwhile, you wake up and there is trouble sitting on your chest, drooling slightly, bleeding from the mouth because it's been bitten to your carotid artery, and saying, you've got all these bills, you're getting older, the clock's ticking, you're going to miss the opportunities, it's all going to go wrong. Be frightened, be frightened, be frightened. And meanwhile, success is in the next room saying, I wish I could tell you, but I'm about to come into that space and save you. But it's not going to tell you that. So in the end, what you've got to do is be stoical. And as Thomas Hardy, the great novelist, teaches us, even in the bleakness of life, what you do is you best serve by standing and waiting. And you wait and you wait and you wait and you keep doing things that ultimately will facilitate your success. But just when you think it's not going to come, it comes. I got to tell you, I was very successful at Hollywood at one point. And I think I told you guys last time, I bought an airplane. We had a couple of houses. I had a boat, the whole shebang. And then I decided, I was going to give up the cinematography and the commercials and the producing of commercials. And I was just going to produce this film about cancer called Decoding Annie Parker. And I had the money, so it was easy to do it. And the producers who promised me the money didn't have the money. And I had assigned the contract to them and the script to them, and they wouldn't give it back. So I had to buy my own script back at cost of fortune. Then I had to spend a few years, 5, raising money for the film while I wasn't working. Meanwhile, I was supporting the staff and other people. Some other catastrophes came along, and all this fortune I built up, including maintaining an airplane, which is a very expensive thing, went gone and gone and gone and gone and gone. And soon I suddenly realized all the money had gone from my bank account. I had hurt my credit rating, and I was ringing up people and borrowing. That's how low I had sunk. And I thought there was no way out of it. This is the end. I've destroyed my own career and there's no future. Wow. And then unannounced and surprisingly, they asked me to come and shoot Magic City, which got me the ASC nomination. Decoding Annie Parker came on, got spectacular reviews. We did okay box office in the cinema, we did spectacularly online, and money came in. Then someone read Dominion, which became Last Call, and I was commissioned for that. Then I got 5 feature film commissions for screenplays in 18 months.
Wow.
Big features.
Wow.
From samples of my writing that I had sent out 3 years previous to that. And I didn't even know, I'd fired the agent subsequently. I didn't even know people still had the writing. Wow. And one by one, these calls started coming in, and I thought this was surreal. Now, on the evidence of where I was when I was eating peanut butter and beans, which is a strange combination because I couldn't afford anything else, and borrowing money from my family, I had no idea that success was weeks away when I was at my lowest point. So I guess the point of all this is not that, well, one point is I may seem successful, but I've had my share of failure. But I think the point is that it's stoicism and perseverance. It's getting yourself exposed to as many people as possible. It's working all the time, working on every film that you can, and approaching every casting director that you can, and then just waiting and freeing yourself of all those things that are an obstacle to your own success. Things like embarrassment. You know, it's amazing to me now that I'm a really old guy, the time that I've wasted not phoning people up or doing things because I was embarrassed about what they would think of me. You know, when I was a young director, I would be, when I was directing commercials, I'd be hesitant to phone up a famous actor because I wasn't famous. They might think, who is this guy phoning me up? But now, I don't care what anybody thinks. I phone everybody up. And when this film's coming out, I was ringing up old friends who have become rich and successful and famous. And, you know, I was thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but I think, no, I'm not embarrassed. I phoned them, hey, I need your support of this film. And they would phone people up. They were the cast at one point, the publicist for the film, not for me, was hesitant to ring up my actors. And I said, well, why just phone them? So then I just phoned up John and Reese and Rodrigo and Zosha and said, hey, would you guys be in a press conference? Sure, Stephen, no problem. So it's the fearlessness that nobody can do anything to you. No one's going to shoot you for phoning them up. No casting director is going to, you know, beat you with a stick as you show up at their door. Just charge forward, patiently wait, do as much work as you can, and then get people to see it. And then finally, it's where you are in the world. Australia's got a really good film industry, as does England. But the biggest, best film industry in the world, in the worst city in the world, is Los Angeles. So come, Paul, sell your soul, surrender everything that's morally important to you, and trade your immortal soul for financial success, and come to Los Angeles and be poisoned like the rest of us. And Robin will be here. Robin will be here.
In spring, remember? I'll be coming in spring. No, I'm not sure when yet. I'll have to decide.
Stephen, that's outstanding.
Just a quick question, Stephen, on the casting. Do you use the same casting director each film you do, or do you sort of sporadically, is there a few casting directors that you use?
I change every casting director. I change casting director every film that I do for a variety of reasons. I learned this from Tony Kaye, who I used to do commercials with, who would change crews on every commercial he would do. And I always thought it was crazy because we'd all want loyalty. I was the only one that he kept. And I asked him this. He said, because when people work for you for the first time, they do their best work because they're anxious to impress.
Yeah.
So the minute someone has a relationship with you, there's a comfort factor. You feel, I know this person. But something strange happens with comfort factor is that they go, you know, I got this new clients. Now imagine if you're a casting director for a moment. And now you've got a director who's worked with you 6 times, who loves you, depends on you. Now you got a new client comes, Steven Spielberg comes to you. Now you've got to decide what you're going to do with your Saturday morning. You're going to work on the weekend. Are you going to service the director who's worked with you 5 times, who loves you, is going to stay with you anyway? Or are you going to service the new client who might not be loyal to you? Of course, you're going to service the new client.
Yeah.
So every time you hire somebody fresh and new, they're on their best behavior. They're doing the best they can for you. And it's a little bit ruthless. And you've always got to keep them all guessing. Also, the best casting directors, Mary Blue in particular, sometimes just isn't available. She's off doing a Marvel film, you know, for 180 million. And when I come to her with my little $5 million, $6 million movie, you know, Mary loves me, but she doesn't love me that much.
And do you cast all the briefs, do you have specific agents, or do you just do it across the board?
Say again, do I have a specific?
So the briefs for your film, do they cast across the board to all the agents, or is it selected agents that you pick?
You mean the agents themselves? No, I don't. I'm not a great. I don't believe in packaging because now sometimes you kind of have to, because agencies are putting together a package that will help you raise money. But I rarely cast before I raise the money. I try to raise the money first, and then I cast, so I can be in a better position to make offers to actors. It's a much better way to go. People who attach actors are destined to failure, because the only actors who attach to projects are generally ones who aren't working. They don't have a high value, but they want to be paid above the board because you're using their name to raise money. So you pay more for actors who have less value. It's a bad combination, and they're also not contractually bound to you. So you come time to shoot, they can just walk away from the film altogether, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I completely lost track of your question now. Sorry, do I specifically?
Yeah, that's
What was
okay. It was more.
Agents. So what I don't do is I say to agencies, this is the roles that I'm looking for, and this is the actors I want. Tell me other actors you've got who are valuable. Now, most of the supporting roles, it's the casting directors ringing up the agencies to get those. And I know a lot about actors because I watch them all the time. So I will put my suggestions in. Usually at that point, the casting director will say, well, I see where he's going. These are some other people he might be interested in. First thing to do is I put my list and I check the availabilities with all the agencies. And then we see who's available and who isn't. The great thing about Last Call is, was remarkable, is I put a list together of 12 actors who I wanted. And all 12 were available. All 12 met with me, and all 12 agreed to be in the movie.
Oh, wow.
So first choice for Dr. Felton was John Malkovich. John loved the script, told everybody in like the press conference, the best script he'd read in 10 years. So not kind of good validation from John Malkovich. That's why I want to put that on the loop. So just before you say, and this is down below was Steve Bernstein. Now I'd like to introduce John Malkovich. John Malkovich is, Steve Bernstein is the best script ever in 10 years. Anyway, so it bears repeating several times. And then Reese read the script and loved it. He agreed to be in it. Romola, who I seen in The Hour, she agreed to be in it. So there you go. But I got lucky. Usually you go through, with another name for casting is heartbreak, because we never get the actors that we want. But remember this, directors love actors, and we love good actors. We're not looking for the famous actors. We're looking for the actor that is going to be that person. The way I interview actors is I talk about their lives, what books they've read, what's happened to them personally recently, what their cultural influences are. I'm not really interested in doing a line reading with them, because they may get it right, they may get it wrong. So what? But the person is the person who I'm going to be collaborating. I want to know how well they take notes, what their interests are, and what they're going to be drawing on. That's what's of value. And Mike Leigh, who's God knows how many Oscars his actors have won, does the same thing.
That's amazing, Stephen. On the notion of raising money, I've been asked here in Australia for a big feature film. It's a based on an old war hero in World War One. What would your advice be, trying to recruit investors for a film in the early stages, especially in production stages?
Well, first of all, I absolutely think you should raise money before you have actors. And I'm just a great believer, again, I'm getting very old fashioned. Not only do I believe in honesty and integrity and ritual, but I also believe in quality. If you write a great script and you give it to people, they will give you money. It's that simple and that hard.
Okay.
Now, so when I raised money for the 1821, the script I'm doing in Greece, when I raised money for Last Call, it's called Dominion. When I raised money for Deconey Annie Parker, when I raised money for Shannon Avenue, these are all the films that are financed or either going into production or are shot already. Every one of those was based on a script that people read and gave them the money with no cast attached. Wow. So what I would do if I were you, I would get a hold of a great screenplay. Find a great screenwriter. I know an American one who's got a pile of screenplays, is anxious for you to go raise money for, Joey. We go out and but I think there's lots of people there that can do that as well. You give it to potential investors and explain how film works, which is they put money in, you make it, and then you've got to understand how waterfalls work, where money comes from, what your market is, what your demographic is, and explain to them that the likelihood is they're probably going to lose their money, but they might make their money back. You've got to be absolutely honest that it's a high risk occupation. And then they give you the money. Once you have the money, you can go to cast and say to the agents, I've got the money and I want to get this actor. And the agent goes, well, when you get the money, give me a call. And he said, no, I've got the money. And the agent goes, pardon? We've got the money already. And they go, oh, you do? Here's all the actors I represent. You tell me which one you want. I'll make a call. I'll take Brad Pitt, please. Because they're so surprised when an independent filmmaker comes to them with money and a shooting date that they're stunned into submission. And they'll give you any actor you want. Actors want to work. They particularly want to work on on films that already have the money.
Well, that's great advice, but you know, it's something that I'm finding. Like I'm in private lending here in Australia for property and other things here, but finding that high risk investor. What has been your how have you found that high risk investor other than, you know, obviously having a great script? Is there any sort of added value you can offer them, or you know, is there any other insight?
You got to be very careful not to oversell. Because one, there's a moral question. If you oversell, it's dishonest, and you don't want to seduce someone into investing if you're absolutely sure they're not going to make their money back. So I would say first, you got to have a really good script. Secondly, you've got to understand the way it works. Now, I think it's a particularly good time to invest in streaming based programs. There's great things about streaming services. Let's say you write something, the Joey story, and people love it, and they want to put it on Netflix, which is great because the way Netflix pays is this: they give you your budget. Let's say it's a 13-part series, starting with Joey as a child, growing up in the outback, his pet, whatever,
Yep.
the terrible accident with the tractor, which devastates the family, your desire to dance ballet, but your dad wants to work in the salt mine with him, so you just can't explain to your dad. Look, Joey, we've 5 generations of salt miners. Somebody just put a hat on. He's going to have to remove it if he wants me to continue. Not that one. Better, Robbie. Thank you very much. You tried to slip that one in on me. So we've always been salt miners. Joey, you got to be a salt miner too. Nobody in Outback's ever been a ballet dancer. But Pa, I love ballet dancing. So they decide to give you money for this series, and if it's 20 million, they give you a 30% producing fee.
Yep.
Up front. So you get 26 million Australian dollars, whatever it is, 20 million for the series, another 6 million, let's say US dollars, better, I guess, 6 million for yourself, and that's your profit. Now that's so much better than having to go to independent, film festivals and trying to find a buyer and all the rest of it. So streaming services are great. So you can say to your investors, look, we're doing the Joey ballet dancer story. We think it's compelling. Here's the script. Maybe a few people have covered it, and we should say they've written notes on it. We think we have a good chance of getting it made. The script's going to cost, I charge $250,000 to $350,000 a script. So you hire a writer, or you've written it yourself already. Maybe you've raised the money for the script. Maybe you've written it yourself and you didn't have to raise money. And here's the script, and we're going to go now to the streaming services, and off you go. And they give you money. Now, why would they be giving you money at that point if you don't have a film? And why would they be giving you money if you're going to get money for the streaming services is the bigger question. But if you just need money for a script, and you can write a really great 2-page presentation about why they should give you money, maybe get money for the script that way. Then you go to the streaming services and go to one, then the other, then the other, then the other, and someone buys it, and everybody is fantastic. Now, if you do it the other way, you want to make an independent film, then you say, look, here's other films that are very much like the Joey story, which Billy Elliot, for example, or the Full Monty, or whatever else.
Dirty Dancing. Dirty Dancing. Yep.
Dirty Dancing, exactly right. Simply Ballroom, any of these films. And then they say, okay, we'll take the risk. We'll give you 2 million or 3 million. You make the film, and then you take it out into the independent marketplace, Cannes and to Venice and to Toronto, and you see if they get their money back. And you explain, give some examples of some films that made money and some haven't. Look, the first thing you got to say to anybody investing in film is it's a high risk undertaking. But if a streaming service buys the script and makes it into a series, or if an independent film takes off, we shot Monster for really $3.5 million. It's made $104 million worldwide.
Wow, that's massive.
We shot Like Water for Chocolate for $700,000. It became the highest grossing foreign language film of all time in America. It made 48 million. We shopped Half Baked for 2.5 million. It did very badly initially. Now it's made around 60 million, worldwide.
Wow.
Waterboy was meant to be a niche comedy. We spent a lot of money on that. We spent around 20 million. It made 1 billion with a B, $1 billion.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So there's
yeah,
money to be. I got very lucky. There's money to be made making movies, but they can also lose all the money. I think generally investors are more inclined to give you money when you're truthful with them. So tell them it's a high risk enterprise. It is. Tell them there's a big upside. It's a lot of fun, but there's no guarantee. And also, you're morally obliged to say that to them.
Yeah,
but be careful not to oversell. When you suddenly, for actors as well, for human beings, when you find yourself selling to people, when you find yourself altering the perception of the physical universe to cause a person to see the world the way you want them to see it, the way that it is, then you've gone over a moral threshold from which there is no recovery, and most of all, people will intuit it and not give you money. The way I raise money is the first thing I say to my investors is, you're probably going to lose your money on this movie. It's a high risk enterprise, but it's a great script and we're going to get a great cast. They give me money for saying that. And the scripts seem to be okay. People keep hiring me to write scripts, so that's okay. But now that I'm a year older as of this morning, I may be burning out. We'll see.
Fantastic. Hey, Brandon Kaplan has a great question. Have you ever hired somebody without seeing them in a project?
Yes.
I hear absolutely nothing.
Oh, Brandon, did you want to ask the question?
Maybe get Brandon up.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. And I watch your hat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just picked it up.
Positivity.
I saw it in a shop window and I was like, you know what? That's speaking to me today, especially with everything going on.
Well, I would wear that hat, and my wife would wear the hat that's negativity. So that's why.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, first and foremost, thanks a lot for coming on again, and congratulations on everything going on.
And happy birthday.
Yes, and happy birthday.
You.
Have you ever hired anybody without seeing a project? Because that recently happened to me. So I'm curious.
Is that when I hired you without seeing what? Sorry.
Have you ever hired anybody without like seeing anything they've done yet?
Just hired them without seeing anything they've done at all?
Yeah.
Did you meet the person first, or they just send you a contract, or what happened?
So what happened was I had an old friend tag me in a post on Facebook, and the director messaged me, sent me the script. I enjoyed the script, and I said, he said, let me know what you think. And I was like, okay. So I read the script, and I told him, I was like, I'm not one for like horror films, but I can relate to this character, and I can play off of real life experiences. And had a little chat, and then he goes, well, do you want the part? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, do you want the part? I was like, yeah, absolutely, cool, it's yours. I was like, you don't need to see anything I've done, anything like that? He's like, nope. So I don't know if you've ever done that to somebody or not, but
well, look, because I'm a kind person, I would love to do it to people just the hell of it. I would just pay them. I wouldn't even make a movie. But look, it's kind of a, can I say, a risky proposition, because although I'm sure you're fine, it is possible you could hire an actor that way who couldn't act. Although I think I can make anyone act, but I still think that it would be tragic if you hire somebody with no training, no acting ability, and maybe a bad attitude as well. So, they show up late and you go, you're late. You go, yeah, well, I can't act either. So, what's the problem? So I don't know if that would be, I'm delighted at your good fortune. I would say this, I really don't believe in reading actors for roles. I don't want to hear their take on a script or a character. I want to know who they are as people. Winona Ryder and I had a very, very long conversation about a film that I nearly cast her in. And we realized at the end, or she realized, I said, well, that's great. She goes, but Stephen, we never talked about the movie. And I said, oh yeah, we didn't. And we didn't have to. I had to know who she was. I had to know what her process was. I was familiar with her work, which is great, but this was a very different role for her. And she had to know me and my process. I had to explain to her how my film sets worked, how sacrosanct the process of actors were, how protected she would be, how private our sets would be. We talked about her past films, my past films, people we knew mutually. We talked about literature, we talked about art, never once about the movie.
Wow.
And that's the way I still work. It drives casting directors crazy. Certainly minor support roles, someone's got one line. I don't necessarily want to know their philosophic understanding of Kierkegaard, but, and I probably will want to hear that one individual line. But for my leads, I just got to know who they are as people. And then I study them as they're talking to me, and I get a better idea of how they can access the genuine complexity of the human condition. That's what I want most of all in every actor. That's what every director wants, is complexity. They want a suggestion, an intimation of the sublime in the subtle. So when you have someone indicating and just acting the role or the line, then nothing else is going there. To me, all films are mysteries. All films are mysteries. They're the mystery of the narrative or the mystery of the human themselves. So when I see an actor or an actress begin to act and do a scene, and suddenly I realize that I'm seeing one thing, but there's something else going on that I can't fathom or understand, and I've got to keep watching to figure out what that mystery is, then suddenly it's not just the narrative story engine that's generating the interest, it's the performance itself that's presenting the mystery of that human spirit that engages me. Look at the Queen's Gambit. Just looking at that woman's face, silent, unspoken, not acting, not saying any lines, just her looking out at the world, right away, she was full of mystery, the intimation of the sublime, something being suggested there that we couldn't fathom or understanding, so we're compelled to keep watching. That's what performance is. And that's why directors who give actors single notes to play, I think are always misguided. My film is about a character, Last Call, who's remembering his past, thinking about his future, and experiencing the present, but it's uncertain present because he's drunk. But these things are blending together. So you never know quite what he's thinking, and you're trying to work out the mystery of that character. I think as we mediate the world, we're thinking about our past, we're thinking about our future, we're imagining things, and we're uncertain as to what we're witnessing in the present. And I think actors have some obligation to play that. Doesn't mean it's the only thing you play or even the principal thing you play, but there's always that complexity there. And that's what makes a performance, I think, riveting. I think generally in writing, we tend to oversimplify because we've read too many books about the 3-act play. And in performance, too often, is the director so anxious to do something that's playable for an actor, and the actor is so anxious to play a single thing to demonstrate their mettle, very often the object is not to play a single thing. It's to intimate a great many things while you're playing one thing, but those other things are in the subtext, and I always want to see subtext. It's what's happening on the face between the lines rather than the lines themselves. Bresson showed us actors who basically play it very, very flat, but there's a suggestion of so much else that's going on. The less you play, the more you intimate, the more powerful and evocative it is for me. I'm not going to find that out from a line reading. I want to find that out from talking to you.
I love that.
Very powerful. Very powerful. Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Anyone else got any questions? Stephen, do you want to have a look at the chat box or put your hand up? Jeff Lipton, formerly Jeff, he's got Susan Lipton as his name. We'll ask to unmute. Come online with the New York State Bridge, is it? The New York Bridge?
San Francisco.
San Francisco
Can you hear
Bridge.
me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
I
Yes,
can. How's San Francisco? It's another foggy day in San Francisco.
Yes, it's where I left my heart, Stephen.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again, and happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Not only are you in foggy San Francisco, but you look like a glove puppet. You're bouncing up and down, so it's fantastic.
It's a rough sea here at the moment. Now,
It's the wind blowing off the bay. It's very cold. Put a jacket on.
you can probably see my golden locks blowing in the wind, can you?
I can hear you. We got the double echo again, but you're just up the road for me. So drive south about 3 hours. We'll meet for breakfast.
I'll knock on your door. How's that? Now, as a little point of interest, Liam Neeson arrived in Melbourne last week to start shooting a feature film.
Oh, Liam.
What I've read in the papers lately is there's going to be quite a few American productions done in Australia because, number one, they consider it COVID-19 virus free pretty well, and also they find cheaper production here. So from what I read, there's going to be quite a few American films made here. As I say, one feature just started here in Melbourne last week. What I wanted to ask you, Stephen, was you've just got through a film, The Last Call. I hope it goes well for you. But have you already got your next film planned? And also, have you ever had an opportunity or a desire to come down under and make a film down here?
Okay, well, I think I heard the question. Again, with the reception, I think we're talking about shooting in Australia. I would love to shoot in Australia. By the way, have I made a fool of myself? That is the Golden Gate Bridge behind you. That's not the Sydney Harbour Bridge, is it?
No, you were correct. You were correct.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I thought I had embarrassed myself and offended all my Australian friends. So no.
You were spot on.
Okay. I would love to come to Australia. I've got Australian friends and some cinematographers who are dear friends of mine. I think Peter Weir is probably one of the 2 or 3 best working directors in the world. It's a great industry and a spectacular country, and I would love to come shoot there in a minute. And I know that you guys more or less have beaten the virus, unlike us. Also, I'm willing to trade you Donald Trump for Peter Weir and Kate Blanchett. And 2 actors to be named later. So they come here and you can have Donald Trump. He can become your premier. It's fantastic. You'll have a great time. Make Australia great again. You can all have a little hat.
Have you
Robbie,
ever been
you were
to
wearing
Australia?
the hat a second ago. Don't do the gesture now. You had the hat on, so.
Stephen, have you ever been to Australia?
I have been to Australia. I spent some time in Sydney. We shot a commercial there in a rainforest, and my friend directed a film called The Thin Red Line
yes.
in Australia. So, and my girlfriend at the time was the editor on that. So I was visiting. It's a fantastic place.
So do you have another film lined up, do you?
Sorry?
Do you have your next film lined up now that you've got?
Well, we've got a TV series in Greece about the 1821 revolution, which is kind of enormous. So I'm working on, I've written the pilot, and they've commissioned me to write the first 13 episodes, so I'm doing that. I'm doing a series in Spain about a big scandal there, which is a feature film that remarkably they want to turn into a series, which I hope they don't, because then I'll have to write that. And then I've just written a comedy in the UK that's been commissioned. Now, I won't be directing the comedy, and I won't be directing the film in Spain, but I will be directing some of the episodes in Greece, but I'll be on call for those other projects. And then I've just been commissioned to write a book about creative process. Well, I've written the book, or I'm finished writing the book, which is due out at the beginning of next year. But because of the screenwriting obligations, I've fallen behind on finishing the book. So in answer to your question, am I available to come to Australia? Because I love chaos more than anything else. And I say yes to everything, going back to Paul's question, just charge ahead and then let the chaos follow, because then order will make itself manifest. So I would come to Australia in a second and then figure out what a terrible mistake I made later. Not in coming to Australia, but in spreading myself too thin. But I think it's a remarkable country. What you've done with the COVID is singular and remarkable as well.
Well, in Melbourne here, we've just had our 20th day with no new cases and no deaths, which is the best run we've had since the whole thing started. So we've pretty well got rid of it now, which is rather good. And we've just come out of lockdown only 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've probably had the strictest.
But my question then is, why are you in San Francisco?
In San Francisco.
Because I lied about Australia being free of the virus. I thought I might fool you for a moment.
That's fantastic. That's some great insight. Anyone else, put your hand up if you'd like to ask a question. Robbie. Yeah, Robbie was first one up, then Peter, followed by Peter, eh?
Yep, Stephen, I had a question for directors and producers. Quite often I come across a lot of celebrities that are working in reality television shows that find that once they've worked in a television reality show, they've been completely cast away from any opportunity working in a movie. For example, I've just noticed Nicole Mooney's down in our group here. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
So Nicole actually was casted into a reality show called Married at First Sight, where they would meet strangers, get married for real, and get a lot of exposure worldwide. So
Whoa. Spin me back for a second. Sorry. I just want to make sure I got this straight. Sorry.
So
Nicole, who I see on my little monitor here, was on a reality show, and she married someone, really.
She would be casted in with a whole pile of women to meet a whole pile of men to argue and manipulate.
Why can't we get, Robbie, can we get Nicole up? Is that
Nicole, why don't you explain what happened? Because she's in every magazine as the runaway bride. She canned it and ran away.
They hate me.
How are you, Nicole?
I'm good.
Hi, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Back from the honeymoon, yes?
Yeah, well, I don't think Channel 9 will be auditioning me again. You know, I just think it's very risky in those type of reality shows because you can't control what they're going to edit, you know, how you're going to be perceived on the big screen. And I just think a lot of people would just jump in, want to have about 5 minutes of fame, and I just don't think it's worth it, you know. And I think for someone like me as well, I'm a very creative individual. I've been writing a book for the last 4 years. I want to do screenwriting, and, you know, everyone's saying, you know, get involved, you know, just do it. It'll be great publicity. And I just think it'll be more like I'll be scrutinized and that'll be over, you know? Yeah.
Look, you raise, I mean, obliquely, you raise a great point. I'll be oblique because your point is a good one. If I understand it, because again, the receptions are fantastic. It's really to do with public perception of who we are. It's particularly important with cast. This goes, first of all, to independent films, because when you look at independent films, you realize that very often some of the actors that come and work on independent films are people who are trying to rebrand themselves. Because when you do an important independent film, whatever you've done before, suddenly, instantly, you're rebranded because you're an important independent film. So it's a great way to recreate the public perception of a person, because the public is not by their nature individually unkind, but collectively is ruthless. So suddenly, and because we have so much to mediate, so many people to know and deal with, we don't want to individually assess a person. We want to make a quick assessment of who they are. So we say, oh, reality show, oh, whatever this person is, whatever that person is. And in fact, rarely are that. People are more complex and richer in depth and understanding of the people than they are than the show represents them. So then it's a matter of the rebranding, which is why when you look at a film like Boogie Nights, and you got Burt Reynolds was in the wilderness because he was cast as this not very deep, slightly thuggish, insensitive, past it actor. And what happens? He turns in, I don't know if he got the Oscar, but he should have, genius performance in an independent for Paul Thomas Anderson, who's become one of the most important directors in America, and completely changes his career by doing an independent film with, at the time, an unknown director. This is what film does, and you have to recognize how capricious the nature is of public perception. But that's also a wonderful thing, because if it's capricious, it can change in a millisecond. For my own career, I've gone from, it's a long, convoluted story about not so much who I was, but who I was involved with or associated with, etc. So at one point I was the pariah in Britain, and then suddenly I was heroic. I went from mainstream and uninteresting to suddenly important, independent. But it happens in a millisecond, and it happens via our art and our craft. Anything can be altered if we choose to alter it. And very like I was saying to Paul earlier, you don't know that the alteration is coming. But meanwhile, the scrutiny is brutal, until you do the work that demonstrates you are different than who they perceived. The paradox and the irony of it is the new identity isn't you either, but it might be a more tolerable identity than the one that preceded it. But that's why doing important work is important in rebranding. And it's one of the big things that when you're an independent filmmaker, you can say to actors, which is, hey, we can't pay you a lot, but we can rebrand you. This will be a film that'll launch you, and the people will see you as different than you were before. And it happens all the time. Is suddenly, like Mark Rylance, the great British director, was always regarded as a Shakespearean classic theater director. They would never put him in anything in television or film. And then he did Wolf Hall, and then he did the Bridge of, is it called Bridge of Traitors? I can't remember, the one with Steven Spielberg. And he turns out to be this incredible actor, and wins an Academy Award nomination, so on, and is transmogrified. That's the glory of independent film. That's the glory of art. And that's the glory of us being artists, least of all you, Nicole, is that we have the ability to alter the course of our lives by choosing what art we choose to be in. And then people will change their perception of us. But ultimately, in my Buddhist voice is saying, we can't control what people think of us. They will think what they will think. What's ultimately important is our own individual journey. You know, Seneca once said, it's remarkable how we spend all our time thinking about ourselves, but our main concern is what others think of us. And that's a curious thing. So it's always a key thing that we completely give up on what others think of us and focus on our own relationship to our own evolution and to our art and craft. So I don't know any of this, Nicole, because I don't live there, but I know people are in the same situation you're in, and I know how easy it is to alter. So, you know, I think it would be cool to see you in the independent film I do, you know, when I come to Australia, The Story of Joey. You could be his next door neighbor. You know, Joey wants to be a ballet dancer. Nobody will encourage him, but you, because you were in the Royal Ballet years ago, you know, encourage him. You teach him a few steps, trying to hide it from his salt mining father. He finds out, gets very angry with you. You have to leave the community. And you say to Joey, if you ever leave here, come see me in Sydney, and I'll get you an audition at the whatever the Royal Ballet is called in Sydney. And he escapes. He arrives there. You're now a drug addict, unfortunately. But you're so inspired in helping Joey and seeing him dance again. And you say you can never watch anyone perform because you never go in that ballet house ever again. Just as you're performing, I'm almost about to cry. You come in the ballet house at the back, and you get the standing ovation. The camera holds back and begins to push in where you are. So we're about to see a close-up, and people sit down, and you're gone. And Joey never knows that you saw him dance, and we don't know what happens to you in the film.
Oh man, I'm just
moved here.
Wow. Seriously, guys, how amazing is this guy? You are amazing. Seriously, man. Thank you. That was just brilliant.
And Joey does a dance called the New York Ballet. He wears that hat. A giant picture of himself behind him. It's going to be fantastic.
Branding is everything. That's amazing.
Joey, do you take that with you wherever you go? I think it's incredible. You go on a date, and the girl says, "Excuse me, there's a big picture." I'm sorry. I take it with me wherever I go. So
I do, and it gets a lot of good raps, but it's very weird, which creates good story, which is good, right?
Thank you. A T-shirt with it on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nicole, I hope I wasn't disrespectful, but look, obviously, you're stunningly beautiful. I presume you're gifted and interesting. Otherwise, they wouldn't have cast you in anything. The thing about all shows is they don't put uninteresting people in a show. So if you're in any show, it means by nature you're interesting. So you must be an interesting person. And now you've had
weird and
even
interesting.
greater richness of experience. So all these things you can draw on, I think it's fascinating. So I'm looking forward to your future film roles.
Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Wow, wow. Peter D. Flaherty, we got some ones happening. Francesca, she remembers to type in the ones from last time. Thank you, Francesca. Peter, you've got a great question supporting social media. So can you please ask it? Just unmute yourself.
Oh, so hang on. I just read because I couldn't hear it. I just read that Nicole ran away from the show. Oh, even
Look at me. I was rather disappointed I didn't get to wear such a beautiful wedding gown. But yeah, after a failed marriage, I thought, well, at least I get to, select something that's suitable and in my taste, obviously. And yeah, I just, could just see the way they were angling, me as a character, and I thought to myself, this is a bit too scripted, and I just didn't want to, be scrutinized and jeopardize a career, because I know which way I'm going,
Brilliant. Good. You become more and more compelling by the minute. So fantastic. What a really interesting soul. I'll tell you one interesting about it. It's different, but she inspired me. We did a film up in Canada. I won't say who the actress is. We costume drama. We had some fantastic outfits. And the last day of shooting, she had the costume, her trailer pulled up next to the costume truck, and she went in and she began removing all the wardrobe and putting it into her vehicle, and she got caught, which was just incredible. But I get it. If I was an actor, you get to wear some fantastic outfits. There's some suits I've seen actors wear that I want to steal, but I guess we really can't do that. So I wish Nicole at least stolen a wedding dress, for future reference.
Hey, my boy down there, Peter, do you want to yell out?
Firstly, one of the best rebrandings that has taken place in recent memory for me is Sasha Grey, who made her name as a porn star to begin, and then went on to work with Soderbergh and was absolutely fantastic in that. So the rebranding is very real.
Absolutely. But rebranding happens all the time. By the way, Peter, I got to ask you: have you just moved? Are you about to move, or is there something going on in the house? Because I don't mean to comment on persons, but I see a green teddy bear, and I see many things covered in.
That's my son's, my little fella.
Of course it is.
And he likes him to be here to keep me company. Yeah.
Of course it is.
Various other things from the children. Yeah.
Greg.
But
okay.
And this is to cover up all the stacks of film equipment that.
Oh really? What film equipment do you have?
Yeah. Well, everything from lights to sound equipment, just the things that I've accumulated.
All of us, with all 20 of us, we can make a movie. We got the actors, the actresses.
We're ready to go. I've got 2 features that I'll hopefully be working on in the new year, but we could still do that. If you came over, I would drop them. That's fine. Yeah. But after Sasha Grey, it actually led quite well into the question I was going to ask. I called it the silent agenda, the elephant in the room, because I used to always suspect that social media was going to play a big role in casting in the future. And it was always denied. And I'm quite good friends with a number of casting directors, professionally and personally. And now that I've been producing quite a lot, I'm actually learning a lot of things from both sides of that casting hemisphere. And what is said publicly is that, no, we look for the best actors for everything. What is said privately is, okay, how many followers do they have? Could we leverage this? And I totally get that. And particularly in my role as producer in films now, I see why it's done. But how do you feel about it? I mean, I know that it's huge in Australia because they will just like to take someone who was on, I won't mention which, but a soap for a certain amount of time. I've been on all the soaps myself, so I understand why that happens. But the truth of the matter is they don't necessarily get the best person for the job, because they will go for someone who has 10,000 followers or 50,000 followers. And I know myself that there are programs that build followers, because every now and again I check my Instagram, I get all these messages from actors saying, oh, what's your next film and when are you going to be shooting, etc., etc. But I also have a whole lot of people that I've never met and never followed who I apparently follow on Instagram, and I spend half my life unfollowing people because I don't know who the hell they are. I just wonder.
I hope you're not spending half your life on. I hope you're not spending half your life on following people. But that would be sad. Look, again, we got a lot of interference on the line. I think you're talking about actors and how they're packaged, and leveraging actors. I heard the term leveraging. I'm not sure whether you were for it or against it. Look, this is my view about actors and actresses. For me, only one thing matters, and that's the quality of the performance. And that they can deliver me. And for that, I want people who are interesting and complex, who've lived a life, be it old or young. Someone sent me a question. I won't say who it is because I don't know, but they're saying, why are women my age overlooked for performances? If anyone's being overlooked because of their age, then the director isn't very smart. In daytime soaps, sure, directors may cast someone who are all impossibly beautiful, impossibly made up, and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, to my mind, what makes a man beautiful, what makes a woman beautiful, is the complexity of their life experience. When you look into a face, you can see a person who's had pain, who's felt love, who's anguished, who's frightened. These are the things that you draw on, and these are the things that are charismatic. As I look at some of the actors and actresses who are here, wow, that is a great place to photograph, a great face. They don't have to say or do anything at all. Please don't think this is sexist and no one scream at me, but right now, for whatever reasons, Nicole is large on my screen. And I look at that face and I'm thinking, put the camera there, have her look serious, and look at the complexity of emotions that's always in that face, and push in on it in a moment, and the audience will be transfixed. So that's the way you cast. You cast by casting people who are fascinating. People are by their nature fascinating, because all of us are trying to mediate and understand the world. So we want to see other people doing the same thing we are. Yeah. And that's what actors are, is they are living life for us vicariously. So I cast interesting people. You look at the cast of my film, people think that they're eccentric looking very often, but what they are to me is interesting. I mean, Samantha Morton looks very different now than she did 15 years ago. But I cast her in my one movie, but this, because she is a fascinating soul, a complex soul, a troubled soul in some respects, but a brilliant and kind one most of all, and a really interesting one. Same thing with all my other choices. So the failure of people who get cast in films very rarely is the failure of the actor or actress. It's usually the failure of the director. And a director who is only casting porcelain 19-year-old beauties, if it's a woman, or Adonis of men, is really missing the majority of the human experience. Look, there's a simple rule in writing. If you've got to start your film with characters that engage an audience and appeal to an audience. And what appeals to an audience is not competency, interestingly, but vulnerability. Not competency, but vulnerability. So when we see a person looking, I said references last time, nervously in the mirror and trying to cover up their bald spot if they're a man, or a woman who's constantly looking at, what she feels is a facial blemish or knows it's too big or whatever it is, and looks uncertain. And the next thing, we take them out into the world, they're meeting someone. And you see the person looking at them, at the nose they were touching, or the bald patch they were covering up. We, as an audience, immediately sympathize with who? The person looking or the person being looked at? We're sympathizing with the person being looked at, because there, but for us, but for the grace of God, goes all of us. It is the humanity of an actor, the vulnerabilities, the imperfections that makes them interesting. And for me, maybe because of my time in life, maybe because of my maturity, what I find attractive in my life partner now, who's been with me for a long time, is I don't mind me saying that she's well over 50, is I look at her face and I see the beauty and complexity of a long life full of suffering, joy, danger, uncertainty, injury. It's all there. A face of a person who has lived a life. That is beauty. That is what is of interest. And that's what real directors and real filmmakers want, is interest and complexity. So if a director isn't casting you because you're not 19 years old, then that's the failure of the director. If you are 19 years old, fantastic. But I like interesting faces, and I think all real directors do. So it's really a matter of finding those real directors, and very often they're working on worthy independent films, and they've got to be found. But then what you've got to, I'll tell you another fascinating story. And look, I've been doing interviews all day, so if I seem a bit flaky, one, I am flaky, and B, I'm also exhausted, so forgive me. But we did a film in Utah, and it was about a hotel that was on an American indigenous reservation. And we wanted, the director was very much of my philosophy and wanted real people. So we found this, you know, a woman who was large with several missing teeth, who was from the local Inuit tribe called Utes. And she was perfect, and she could act, and you just looked at her and you wanted to cry because she felt she had so much emotion in her. And we cast her, and she's very excited, and so excited she's going to be a Hollywood movie star that she proceeded to lose 100 pounds. She got her teeth fixed, she got her skin resurfaced, and there emerged this stunning porcelain model who was entirely wrong for the role. But she didn't show up to do this until the day before she showed up for you know, fittings, and they had all these big costumes for her. Now she was thin as a rail. You know, it was crazy, and that's what happened. So look, I feel as writers we should go to our shared humanity, and our humanity comes from our imperfections, not our competencies, and our eccentricities in appearance, not our so-called perfect beauty. So that's what I believe anyway. And that's what I look for, not only in my life partner, but in all my cast, people who are interesting. Another great story, Alan Rickman once said, his little nephew once said to Alan Rickman, "Why do you always play bad guys?" And Alan Rickman said, "I don't play bad guys. I play interesting guys."
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Hey, Soraya, I hope I said that right. Do you want to come on and ask a question?
What a fantastic name. Hi, Soraya.
Hello, Stephen. I just want to say thank you so much for making the best comedy. Me and my mother still laugh our asses off every time we watch White Chicks. So thank you. It is the best. Really. My mother me now going, yes. Look, I had a question. I had two, actually. So the first one was, when you are...
Sorry, I'm saying, your mother's photobombing you, so I'm just saying hi to your mom.
Loves your movie.
White Chick, my favourite. I could watch it over and over and
We
over
do.
and over. I just love it.
There's not many...
Keep those residual checks coming.
Look, with a script, my question was, do you like to leave scenes where the actors have a lot of improv instead of sticking directly to the script? What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely essential to my process, which is, I say to all my actors, look, I've written the script, but it's not sacrosanct.
Okay.
So if you want to alter this, alter it. Ultimately, you own the character, and you have to find the truth of that character. And I, just like when I'm writing, I dictate so I don't have to worry about the physicality of writing with my fingers. I want to remove all the impediments to creative expression. I want the same thing to happen with my actors. I don't want them thinking about anything except the truth of their character. Further, I will write additional scenes or scenarios that precede the scene, which can be based on improvisation. So the actors can improvise, and then that leads them into the scene itself so they can find the truth of the character. So if an actor is suddenly altering a line in the middle of a sequence, I will always run with it. They stumble, I will keep running with it. I'll tell you what else I do is I have background sound, background actors talking full volume during a scene. Now, it drives sound guys crazy because they can barely hear the actors, but then it causes the actors to raise the volume of their voice and give a more natural and organic performance. The other thing I'll do is I'll say to the off-screen actor, if I have an off-screen actor, very often I like to work with two cameras, and I'll say to them, I'm going to change a line. And I have them change a line. So the actor on screen suddenly will have to react to something entirely different. So they'll be incredibly in the moment. Sorry, incredibly. They'll be absolutely in the moment. And the spontaneity will be genuine. I'm always looking for that truth and genuineness. And so very often that involves improvisation. Now, the thing about improv is I don't necessarily like to do it on camera. So I might have the take just before we roll is improv, or I might do the first take and tell people to improv. And the second one, I'll say, let's go back to the script, or we might combine the two. Ultimately, it's the search for truth. But very often, if I've written a script, I've written it in an order and I want to get to certain points. But when someone improvises and I see it's truthful, I know it intuitively and I run with it. So it's a great note. And I think absolutely you should improv all the time. It's eliminating those impediments to genuine, truthful, creative expression that all of us must work to do. And for actors, it's about freeing them from the limits of rules. One of those rules is giving a good performance. Stop trying to give a good performance. Just talk. And that's the other great thing for young actors. I'm constantly saying to them is stop trying to be good. Be truthful.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robin.
Sorry, I can't. What would you say for Australian actors wanting to, I guess, audition over in the US? Would you suggest an Australian accent or an American accent? Because I hear both.
Look, for real directors, we love regional accents. I mean, in England now, as you probably know, everything used to be, I don't know if you use the term there, but in England, we call it received pronunciation, right? So, RP. So that very pucker sort of BBC, good evening, that sort of accent. But now, of course, it drives my wife crazy. She's a bit of a snob, having gone to Henrietta Barnett School for Gals. And she goes, all these regional accents that are on the BBC now just isn't on. But there are people from the north of England, from Wales, from Birmingham, from all these other places. So I think that's part of the timbre and quality and interest of the human experience. So I think regional accents are fantastic. Were I an actor or actress going to Los Angeles, I would walk in that room and be as Australian as you possibly can. Wow. And then if you're capable of doing American accent, which you should be able to, then switch. And they love that because it not only shows your versatility, but it shows that if they want something unusual, you can provide it to them.
Right. Thank
Great
you.
advice. Stephen, we're just about to wrap up, mate. It's been 2 hours on your birthday, which we are sincere.
I know, that's amazing.
On your birthday. Yeah.
I'm a little bit exhausted because it's been, but I don't want to leave anyone unanswered. So I'll do a quick survey.
Yes.
Another one from, what are your thoughts on a script that leaves a lot of room for improv? And see, we talked about that. Yeah, those are the scripts you like the most, is you'd fill a lot of your own stuff in and run with it. By the way, be careful with directors because sometimes they feel challenged by improv.
Yeah.
The way to talk to actors, with an actor, I'm always saying, run with it, that's fine. If it's particularly writer-directors who are insecure, and you're going to meet a few of them, if you haven't already, then just say, hey, can I just do just one, because I've got an idea, just tell me what you think of it. And then just run with it. But don't let the important thing with leadership and with creative collaboration is don't let people feel threatened by what you're doing. And very often insecure directors are threatened by competent actors. I know it seems counterintuitive, but directors are intimidated by actors because usually directors have their least training in terms of how to direct actors as they come from theater. I'm the opposite because I was directing actors before I was on a film set, but most haven't. So they're easily intimidated. So if you say to them, I've got an idea, can I show it to you? Just see what you think. so they don't feel threatened, and then do the improv and see what occurs. Very often they'll respond to that. It's the same thing, anything on a film set. Reassure people so they don't feel threatened, and then run with things and see if you can creatively, collaborate. I think is like super important.
Read the room.
Let's see what other questions I have here. Have you ever done a Stephen King act in your own movie? I think you mean Alfred Hitchcock, probably, but yes, but I have acted a lot. So I've been in some big movies. Until my son, who's now a very successful film editor and writer, looked at me in a film once, and I said, "Did you see me at the beginning of the film?" And it was a big movie. It was just before Peter O'Toole. I was on in a scene, and then we went from me to, at the time, one of the world's greatest living actors. So it's probably the contrast that made me appear not a great actor. So my son said my performance had a certainly Disney quality to it. So that was that psychologically ended my acting career. But I've acted on stage. I was a child actor. I was played in Canada at the Shaw Festival. So I acted a lot. I still take acting classes. I so love actors and actresses because it's not only noble, but it's incredibly brave. And I've got to remind myself how brave you are by constantly doing improv classes, which I do a lot of, and a lot of acting classes. I change my name. I dress up and things so people aren't trying to get jobs from me. And I do acting classes. People feel a little bit sorry for me. The older guy who's obviously some retired accountant, now trying to get into acting. So, we sit together, we have coffees and things. They tell me about their dreams. I mean, one hilariously, talking about White Chicks. They were all talking about their favorite comedies. And somebody said, "Oh, I love White Chicks." And they asked me if I'd ever seen it. So, and, of course, but it reminded me of how hard it is to be an actor, and it's really hard. I love actors.
So if I ever seen you
so nice doing the Golden Globes thing of being with all my actors again, and I cried right as it began, because just to see John and Reese and Romola and Rodrigo and this merry band of this piece of art that we created, it's so magical. I said in one of the interviews I did today that I only feel genuinely alive when I'm on a film set. I love the place. I love watching actors. I love directing actors. I love cinematography. I love the smell of the smoke. I love the lights. I love the sets. I love floating walls. It's a magical place. I don't know how I can be anywhere else to do anything else. And the pandemic is slowly driving me mad, but I'm not the only one. I'm also very worried about Fiona. I love multitasking, but Fiona's driving a car and watching this at the same time. I think it's fantastic and brave, but I keep worried that I'm going to phone I don't even know where she is. So can I phone 911 in Australia if she runs into something? So
yeah, put me behind bars. I'm ready. I have finished driving. I just pulled in, so your timing is impeccable.
Perfect. I was waiting for you to stop so I didn't distract you.
It looked like a movie scene. It looked like you were driving in a movie scene, and we were like checking in on you.
I was trying really hard not to look at the screen and just listen in. But yeah, thank you so much for today. Happy birthday. I've really, really enjoyed today's session.
Thank you so much. I'm glad. I hope it was useful. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. I think it's been. I think I did my first interview at 6:30 this morning, so I'm running out of energy. If I haven't answered any questions, someone asked me if I'd come to Australia to present a film award. I'd be there in about a millisecond. Just 2 business class tickets to get me there. But we wrap up film. Has an actor ever exceeded your expectations at every level? Every single time. The reason I love actors is they discover things that I don't know is in the role. I'll tell you one last story. Romola Gary came to work on Last Call. She plays Caitlin Thomas, married to our lead character. And I write backstory for actors, hundreds of pages of backstory, imagined backstory so they can draw on it. And I gave her this, and she said, "It's okay, but I've been researching the real Caitlin, and I don't think I'd play it like that, the way your backstory would suggest." My backstory doesn't suggest anything, in my opinion, but it's just backstory. but I've done my own research. Here's what I think it would go. Now, I went home and had the terror of the soul, and I thought, she's not playing it the way I want to play it. What am I going to do? This might not. You never give an actor a direct note. You inspire them, you give them an adjustment, but you never instruct them how to play it. And we met again the next day, and we, before each setup, we sit and we talk, and I talked to her privately, and she said, I wanted to be stronger. This guy's being unfaithful to her. I said, yeah, but you've been unfaithful to him. She goes, yeah, but I've got my reasons. And what emerged was not what I envisioned, but in fact was a better character than I wrote. And now when I look at the film, there's a centerpiece of the film when Dylan Thomas, and if you go to my Instagram page, which is Stephen Bernstein Director Writer, I've posted that scene there. And just so you know, I would love to take all the credit for that scene, but a lot of it came from Romola, who suddenly made her character much stronger and even improvised, dare I say it in case I don't get my Golden Globe screenwriting nomination, but she improvised a couple of lines. And she even decided to throw a drink in his face, which wasn't written. So I told her, change the line by all means so we can wrong foot Reese. She did, and Reese just went right with it. Then he improvised a couple of lines, and my God, it was magic. Wow. And that happened continually through the film. This is why actors are such special creatures, and why my job is to facilitate them, write great scripts for them, but then let them run, because they bravely are going to that parts of the human experience that the rest of us are terrified to even look at. So my actors always give me something better than I wrote, although I hope I'm writing them better scripts than they normally see.
Wow, Stephen, thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much. Nicole Mooney's just suggested before you go, we all sing you happy birthday. Can we sing you a quick happy birthday?
Sing.
Yeah. Can we all
I will
unmute
be
ourselves?
looking for half of you to come out here and get work, and the other half to fly. What will happen is half of you will come here, and I'll be in Australia giving a film award or shooting Joey, the ballet story.
Let's go. Can't wait. Come on down.
Prerequisites are you've got to bring the squirrel down for Joey, right?
Yeah. You're all going to be in it. I've got roles for all of you. Don't worry. As I look at each of you are going to be in it. There's the best friend of the dad, salt miner, who dies in a salt mining accident. If they have salt mining accidents, I don't know. I guess it's probably cholesterol related with all that salt. Then you've got the members of the ballet troupe. You've got the friendly bus driver. There's so much that we can do. Maybe we get together next time. We all write the script together. We each write one page.
Ooh, sounds great.
And someone just offered to be Joey's grandmother. I don't know who. Joey's grandmother. Fantastic. And someone wrote Joey in tights, Francesca, which is fantastic. So next time, Joey, I'm not doing this unless you're wearing tights. All right. Take care, everybody. Good night. Good day.
Good night. Thank you, Stephen. All the best, mate. Thank you very much.
And go to
Happy
Instagram,
birthday.
Director Writer.
Yes.
Even
Happy
Director
birthday.
Writer. Go there now. Bye,
Yes.
guys.
Yes.
Okay, happy birthday. 1, 2, 3.
Happy
birthday to you.
He's gone.
Happy birthday, Stephen. Happy birthday to you.
Hooray! Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Robin, for making today an amazing experience. And thank you, everyone else that appeared here today.
You're welcome, guys. You're welcome. Absolutely.
Stephen, get out and have a celebration now.
Follow Stephen
Get out
on
and have a
Instagram.
nice dinner in a restaurant if you've got any still open over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
well.
guys.
Bye.
See you guys.